The video you're about to view comes from a portion of a committee meeting. This committee, known as the PLC Coaching Committee, was created in response to a area of need of improvement that came out of a district-wide survey. So back in 2019, my district sent out our normal end of the year survey identifying some of our areas of strengths as well as weaknesses. And one of the items that came out of that survey was the fact that 19 out of our 21 total campuses noted that our PLCs, or our planning learning communities, were not used to their full effective measure. Some of the additional comments that were included within that was that PLCs were not meeting on a regular basis. When they were meeting, there were no identifiable norms or common goals, as well as some PLCs were not creating common assessments, common lessons to really align and ensure student success. So, with that, we as a campus put in PLCs as part of our campus improvement plan for the 2020-21 school year. However, in light of COVID restrictions, that became a big item in for our following school year. So it is still part of our CIP, our campus improvement plan, for this following school year. With that in mind, we reached out and contacted an organization known as Solution Trees to come to our district, work with our leadership committee, as well as our individual campus teams, the PLC coaching committees, to work with and really identify what is the purpose of a PLC and how can we promote that planning learning community campus wide. So, what you are going to see is the very beginning stages of that committee team. We have just reconvened after having a training with the Solutions Tree Institution. We are now going to be working together to try to outline 1 to 2 days of professional development training in August prior to the next school year. So, you're going to watch a portion of that, and then I'll show you what we came as a result of it.
We are meeting kind of in response. We went to the training just last week, or I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago, in terms of looking at PLC. So today we're going to go a little bit more into depth and try to plan out how we're going to potentially reevaluate our mission statement, our vision, and then maybe even get into our collective commitments and our goals. What we know is that if we are taking from what we talked about in the training, we are wanting to make this collective. The whole purpose of a PLC is about us establishing a community in our school. And so that was the big idea of this, is we want to get more staff input into it. So our goal is to, of course, make this as collaborative as possible, but also we want to come up with a real plan that is accommodating for teachers' time. We know that we have a lot going on in August, but also we have a lot of changes for the next school year. So our goal is to get at least the first two, mission and vision, outlined by October 10th. So I'm going to set the mic down and we can start brainstorming out. As far as your handout, we talked about, the training, using the rules method, kind of starting with large groups and then breaking it down from there. I think one of the big things I took away from the training was we need to make sure that we're really comfortable with how we work. If we are asking our staff to get input on why we evaluating our mission, reevaluating our mission statement, we need to tell them why we're doing them. Really, I think that's somewhere I would love to just include on why. What do y'all think? What do you think is our one? So I think that we're doing this because we need to have a clear direction for campus, and that we need to, we want to have a desire for all of the initiatives we are currently using on campus to be in alignment under a overarching direction, so that we're not in a situation where we're duplicating. We're looking at initiatives and we're determining those initiatives can actually be either kind of coupled, modified, deleted, so that we can be more efficient. If we probably have several initiatives on campus, they're probably doing producing reviews themselves, and being able to outline a clear mission for your school will allow everyone to be able to look at where our goal is and what initiatives align with that mission so that we can still be a great, efficient moving. I think we we've all been in that situation where we're like, oh great, another initiative, another, committee or another this, but if we're redoing the same thing every couple of years, what's the purpose of it? So I think that would be a good way to frame it, and we go into the budget for 2022. Oh, that's better. Right. And I think that the why section, we have a meeting, like, Kevin's gonna do this, like, welcome back, he's gonna talk about the mission, vision, so I feel like him explaining the why behind it, to kind of get it started with that, because it's very rare that we all meet as an entire staff. So many of us are to everybody mostly. Um,
Well, I'm thinking about this is just the authenticity of what we're doing. All the stuff that we do, is it authentically done, or is it something that we just, well, this is just another thing to check off the box? Does it align with where we're all trying to go? And so if it doesn't, then why are we doing it? I think that should be kind of the major thing whenever we do some type of initiative that's aligned with where we're trying to go. I think we also have to look at our mission statement. And again, did we check off the box with the reason that we put together like this? Or is it something that aligns with what we truly believe in campus? And I think too, like, is this step in the right direction? Making our campus more of a community, like a community of educators as opposed to like, my community of practice, and like, us trying to be like part of the and I think it's not the same thing as with the language, mission, goals. And I think too, is being encourage teachers to interact with others of this the most you can, understand that like it's just kind of establishing that whole monument, like no one's ever getting one, like we're all educators here, all together. So like no, I'll leave that to you. Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is something kind of to say that the goals not me, but then whenever we were up to talk about, I think we need to engage with it, we're going into um,
With that, even just looking at this, I just thought about the first day, I mean, you're talking, just pulling out a picture, just reflection of evaluating where we were, where we're trying to go. And that should almost be what we do every year, just have a reflection of what the previous year was like. And then that's how we define where we're trying to go, what do we tweak, or what do we change, um, or the things that we get rid of, that we feel like is just fiduciary. Trying, like, establishing vision, power, strength, our instruction, and we're framing it in such a way that staff members that actually understand something that's what we know all become better at what we do, right? And that's framing it that way
basically on their content level. Yeah, but they're operating the same. So I've seen individual teachers group up with other individual teachers to become a little bigger island, and then those PLCs and now the departments have come together to create even a bigger island, and then now we're wanting all the departments to even come together. It's almost kind of like we did it backwards. Yeah, you know.
It's reverse pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost feel like you start individually with having each teacher readdress their own why. That's what I'm saying. They're looking up here. Yeah. So Kevin will, like, I really think that, like, we like to show, like, a little inspirational video about someone else, maybe even outside of education, talking about their why or something. Well, I have a video. I'm sure she can take one. I know. This is just years of habit. Yes, I was going to say, I like to do a wonderful statement in terms of, like, why it's actually, like, I'm using it to talk to people outside the department, but I think once it actually goes down to you know, kind of get to the goal of okay, let's come up with what do we want in the mission statement, and then we bring it back to the goal. I think that means because then you can make sure that the department, whatever your department goal is for next year, aligns. Well, again, this is somewhere, are you planning on just throwing this mission statement out there and saying, do you still like it, or do we want to get rid of it, or are we coming at it from? That's what I'm asking. Okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, this has been our mission statement. Right. You know, whether people know it or not. Right. I mean, the people that were here to build it know the why behind it. Right. There was time, I mean, it was the collective effort without leadership team to develop this. It wasn't something that was just done in 30 minutes. Right. It was a process. So we have a ton of new staff that years ago. So my question is, do we want, you know, how do we want to take this to the staff and say, how do we feel about this? What revisions do we need to revisit this? How do we determine if the staff is good with this, or
Do you go back to that 0 to 5?
you know,
Where do we sit?
personally, do you know that we should take that here?
0 to 5.
I don't think you're gonna get the answer to that question in the group. Right. I don't either. I think you're gonna have to plant seeds and then break up. I don't. So that's why I feel like when Kevin talks, like, and it just needs to be brief. I know I have on your hand o'clock. Okay, so I mean, I'm thinking like 15, 20 minutes, and then groups are gonna break up. And so we need an activity, or if we're each nine gonna be a facilitator of a department, what does that activity look like for the facilitator? What are we gonna do with each group to determine, are we good with this statement, or do we need to add to it, do we need to revise it, you know, what we like about it, not like about it? I think we definitely need to start back with, maybe that'll happen in your life, but we definitely, we understand we're gonna talk about our why, but we, the teachers, if they can first establish for themselves, I know we're moving on into extended statements later, but if they can establish just for themselves their why, and then that aligns with what we say we ultimately want, then it helps them frame their mission. Because, like, I'm not like, I understood what y'all were saying here, but I still say that if I say to you, we want to do this, this, and this, it frames the mind to think, okay, now when I look at this mission statement, I can ask myself, for example, I could say, Waffle High School prepares all learners to become passionate, inquisitive, and resilient, right? If I look at the framework, I go, okay, does that speak to rigor? Does it? Just look at it. Okay, so it doesn't. So as when you start talking about activities, you're actually able to say, does this speak to rigor? I don't see anything about rigor here. Okay, let's move to the next, what our standard is. Opportunity knowledge. But I don't know if our personal why, I almost envision kind of doing like a quick, like the opening remarks, just an opening remark, doing a quick video, and then let's reflect on what is your why. Okay, and then we like as people come in, we can hand them a little reflection sheet. And then, okay, we're gonna take 5 minutes and you're gonna reflect on your why. Then after that, I go break out into departments where people can have real conversations. We're gonna do a 20 minute, 30-minute breakout into your department. Okay, from your why, pick out 3 phrases or statements that you, or 2 or whatever, that you really feel embody your why. And I'll give the partner a share. And you do the Doyle's activity within the department. And you share and you share. And then that way each department comes back to the whole group to share. And then someone can type, on the big screen for everybody to see, okay, what were the 3 statements or phrases that your department settled on as a why? So we'll have like 3 statements from all that, which you're going to see lots of overlapping. And then I think from there, we can combine those statements into our triangle framework and say, okay, the leadership is going to, or the PLC solution coaching team is going to take these statements that we've all collectively come up with to come up with our framework. So y'all get the overall vision of, kind of get where the framework of where we're going. Now, here's our mission statement. Do we feel that the mission statement aligns with the collective why? I say right now, make it real. That's what I'm
Yeah, we should make that here.
but it made it clear for it walked everyone through it. Right. It walked through everyone saw it for themselves. Right. Instead of us, guys, this doesn't work. Right. Instead of us, we allow this process will allow the teachers to find and own it. But it takes them from thinking about their content areas more globally. Because if you ask now for one teacher, what's your goal? Their goal isn't thinking college and career ready. Their goal is start that and preparing them for the next level. And we all think that way. I'm preparing them for this. So we need to all start thinking.
And I think maybe teaching that actually not saying college career ready student, but just saying how do you envision students graduate from our core high school? What do they want to be? And sort of, like taking a step back and not sort of framing college thinking, right? Like saying, oh yeah, because if you frame it as college career military ready, then everybody can get used to that because that makes like merges, right? But taking a step back and making it more open ended will, really I think be more providing for authentic side, right? Like, hey, actually you have to be or hey, I'm here to make the football team with stakes for the football team, right? Like, and then but really controversial. You're not gonna get those answers, right?
Right. So you're right. And then you would be able to come back and say, is this going to prepare students for after that?
I think I was gonna say to me it's how do we prepare kids to have a successful life.
And I think that once we get past that mission and we get the revision of that, we'll get a little more detail when we talk about the vision, because that's like our behavior will do to get them there. And then your collective commitment will break it down even more about operating in the classroom, opportunities for college career and military readiness. So it's kind of like, but we got to get the whole staff to realize that there probably needs to be some work on our mission statement to address everybody's collective why.
That staff realize it themselves. Because that sort of establishes more buy-in as opposed to us saying the goal, right? Like they need to be
but we'll do the opening remarks. Then we'll go into, so originally we're talking about the island activity. Are we thinking at this point instead make this individual? What's your
I
why?
don't think we have to start with an individual. I think.
Yeah, I think maybe the island activities is like after we. Is after the breakout? Yeah. Okay. If I may, this activity was a little more relaxed and then pull commonalities and differences and then go to individuals, you're kind of stepping them down into reflection. You're preparing their minds for reflection. And then it's also not, okay, we all just met here, we were in the auditorium for 15 minutes, okay, now we're getting on that. Okay? Well, also, if we're going to be moving around,
It's got to be a display.
I love all of that, but that's going to take a long time. Yeah. Like, you can just whack the rest of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, because did you realize that, like, this island is not like 3 people coming to a consensus? Like, how many people are in the master department? 21. So to ask them a question that, you know, like, who would be the governor of your island, there's going to be 21 different opinions. Like, that's going to be a feat in itself of, like, walking a department through, you know what I'm saying? So I just don't know, like, time-wise. Now, the thing I was, the thing I liked about the other island activities was bringing it into the fact that the PLC no longer be considered what we're supposed to be calling a team. So that was the best thing about that. It shows that we're going from individuals to small teams to larger teams. And if we're going to break up that department down here, doing it that way, we're actually communicating more people outside of just us. One idea I wrote up here, and I wrote it and then kind of thought about it. What if during the island activity, what if we say something about like, okay, let's think about this past school year. What were the struggles that you dealt with? What were some unintended positives that you came out of it? Because I think that also is going to help us identify our purpose and why. I know each of us, there were a lot of things that went wrong, good, and stressful. But I think one of the big reasons why we're excited about doing all of this is because we're not trying to lose momentum on all the changes that happen. So what if we do that island activity, but instead the question be, hey, and maybe just be serious. What was your biggest obstacle this past year? What are you most excited about this coming? What was an unintended positive that came out of all of this COVID restrictions? Family, but it's things like that. I think that may be a little less time consuming, but still do the mission of we're collaborating together, we're talking to people outside of our department, and it kind of gets the energy up before we move on. But when you're doing this, you kind of are thinking about why. Sometimes.
I don't know if it's on the opposite direction. That maybe apply to your role that you heard from other departments. How does your why match up to that? And that being sort of maybe drive discussion later on in the department.
Could you do that with like a roving gallery? Got 9 groups, and you could put up the board and let, if you put a time limit on it, where they weren't making them create what I was initially envisioning, but you just ask the question, what's the culture, what's your PLC, your goal, whatever it may be, write it on the board, then they can row, and or they can just not row, put it on their boards, and they can have a representative speak to their highlights within after a time period. So you have a time period where you say, guys, I'm giving y'all 2 minutes to answer these questions. Those questions have already been written. They're on the board. Let them discuss all that again. Why don't we have them do that? So like if you were, so individually, if you were to come up with one goal, like it said, New York Times is going to write an article about you as a teacher, what would be the headline? Okay, and then they write it individually. Now go share that with someone from your department. And then, okay, now get that group and they share with everyone. Okay, now as a department, if y'all had to come up with a top 5 headlines to highlight the math department, what would that be? And here's your sheet of paper. And then we had them present it like, okay, yes, like, yes. So let's rewind that all the way back, and we got to start at our why. Why are we here? Why do we want to accomplish these things? Why do we want to do this for kids? So then we can go into the reflection activity of now take 15 minutes, go find your spot, do your why, and then you'll meet back together with your department, and then we'll have the facilitator kind of lesson plan to walk the department through coming up with their collective why and feedback. I like that. I think the only thing is the first part is by department, and then the latter part by department, and then we talk. But I think we
instead of being department, our two departments back together. I was going to,
the honesty will have to be in department that people talk to. I love the interaction from different departments, but to get to the real meat of things that we have to talk to people, I kind of feel that you need to do that by department. But I envision everyone going off with their, doing their why, they meet with their department, you share your why, you come up with, okay, what are the 2 or 3 key phrases from your why, or 2 or 3 keywords from your why, and then you do the goals activity within the department. And so essentially, at the end of that activity, each department will have 3 key words or phrases that they're going to bring back to the whole group and the whole staff, and we'll share those. Someone will, a math department, share what key 3 phrases did you guys come up with behind your why, and we'll tack those up on the screen, or we'll do a Google Doc where you go with or whatever we want to do it. And then that way we can see collectively as a staff amongst our 9 departments, here are the keywords and phrases that you're going to see things repeated. And then we'll tell them, okay, now this team right here, we're going to take this and we're going to go and kind of create our framework around everything in which our campus should be revolved around. But in the meantime, here's our mission statement. Do we feel like this mission statement aligns with these phrases? Is something missing? So this is our next piece of work. We need to see if what we have said aligns with our mission statement and what revisions we possibly need to do. So then we would need to come up with when we were like that'll be it for that first day. Yeah. Just leave them with the thought of, does this mission statement really align to what we're doing? Okay. Then maybe over the course of August 6th through whatever, this team finds a time to come back and revisit the collective statements that the group came up with, and we come up with our triangle. Then on the last day, this mission and vision follow-up, hey guys, we took all of these statements that you guys came up with, and here are the common things that we saw, woven throughout each department. So this is going to be the framework in which we as a campus have collectively decided that we're going to move forward in every goal that we have, every vision, every initiative. We need to make sure aligns with this. And 0 to 5, get everybody. And I think the 0 to 5 needs to be part of the individual groups too, the 5 to 5, so that they're already familiar with that activity, and then that way at the end of the PD week, we have the framework and those collective statements, and in which we can start doing mission work, like, exactly. I think it makes sense with really get mission. Like I think this is just the start. And if you want to do it right and really have everybody be able to see their voice and be heard up on that screen and know that yes, we took everybody's opinion into consideration, we valued everybody's opinion. Then we actually had something that we're working on in addition to the collective group team when they work on days. I'm going to have any days. talking about through the year. Yeah, about through the year. Are we going to have any of those? Yeah, do you have any more of those kind of bills that they? So our next one is not until October, and that most likely usually late by the year, and yeah, usually it's so that would be something that maybe this team would want to discuss about how we would want to look at the comeback because I think that also going to be important so teachers know that we really are doing this. It's not just happening in the background. And being revisited, what is being reintroduced. So I don't know what kind of plan you want to look at it as our follow up. We know that that first week follow up, but is it full? Is it something that y'all want to do? You're saying we as a team will be meeting in the new commission, and then there'll be a day that we're introducing. We as a team we're moving as divisions, and we're coming back collectively with staff and president. I mean, the mission really are very much aligned. And so I feel like the conversations that we're going to be having and the verbiage that we're going to be getting from teachers kind of when we're creating our framework for the mission is also going to be kind of mission as well. So I think maybe on that August 17th day, we do the activity, we show what this is, what we decided as our three major frameworks. This is what we're going to use as this is our common driver. A common driver. So full rank. And then I don't think that this group necessarily has to do all the work every time. Like once we huddle back with the whole staff and say, this is the framework. Now the leadership team is going to be involved, and we're going to take this to the leadership team, and the leadership team we're going to give them some guidance and directions on how we need to revise this mission statement. So then maybe at our September leadership team, we come up with what we're going to give to the leadership team to take back to the departments. Okay, this is the activity that we want you to go through in order to determine what changes need to happen with our mission statement. Well, and it is bottom up. I mean, yes, you're starting with everybody and getting their ideas, what they want, and that's building to where we're trying to go. So it's not like we're doing it and then going back prior. Yeah.
Are you using this for anything that everybody's creating by the program?
Yeah, that's going to be your putting like icebreaker activity.
But are you not keeping as part of something that you kind of like what we're doing now? If they have this, and you really pull it all together, okay, this department has very similar goals and outcomes, so you start to use that as part of the process as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can take all of those things in our first leadership team meeting. Hey, let's do this. Remember, this is what could be our goals were, our big, huge goals, and then over here were the 15 selective phrases that we got from the group work about the why. So at that point, we need to go through some sort of activity to with the leadership team to take back to their department to get some common language of what we feel needs to go into our mission.
So being like you, your personality is trying to make sure that they part of that process. Well, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, because in reality, you just say this group, people go, okay, we have two personalities. They're making all these decisions.
But I don't think that they are. I feel like that's what y'all are doing. Y'all are taught me. As it's just that there is coming from us, and the fact that we have built in come back and speak with, and that's why I was asking, what is your plan to make sure that that's built in? And so maybe we haven't had as many staff meetings, but we might want to really say, okay, let's put those on the calendar. And when we have staff meetings, this is a designated day that we're going to be bringing something to the team, to the collaborative team.
next part of the committee meeting that unfortunately was not able to be video recorded was us breaking into small groups. So each group consisted of about 3 committee members, including our head principal and one of our associate principals. And in each group, we tasked them with one of the stages of the professional development. So, for example, one of these groups included our head principal and 2 other committee members, and they broke down how we were going to open up this conversation. What we decided on, as you saw in the video, is that if we are wanting to develop as a campus a professional learning community campus wide, we needed first to identify what is our goal, what's our mission as a campus. The mission statement that we had previously had as a campus is over 10 years old. It is something that, as a staff, most members we found out from a survey did not even know or were able to articulate what our mission statement was. And so we felt that this would be really important to kind of figure out if we are wanting to improve as a campus, become more collaborative, we need to have a common purpose. So, with that verbiage in mind, as you heard from the video, that's where we're going to start the opening statements. So, our usual welcome back meeting, but also just starting to reflect on where are we going, what are we wanting to do. You also heard in the video that one of the most important things, if you are going to implement any new initiative, let alone trying to revitalize a mission or a vision statement or try to create a collaborative campus culture, is buy-in. So what we figured is that we need to start with an icebreaker. You heard some of the development planning ideas on the icebreaker. What we ultimately ended up deciding to do was a goal setting activity by department. We are going to put them into small groups by department, but we felt that this was going to be the most effective way. It'll also be a way to kind of boost up energy, have some fun, as well as really start thinking forward. From there, and so that was one group's responsibility to kind of outline what is that icebreaker going to be. From there, we are then going to come back, we'll share our goals out loud, and we're going to lead into an activity of defining our why. So we're going to give each individual teacher an opportunity as well as a framework of their why statement. Why am I teaching? What are my outcomes for my students, as well as what are the behaviors that I am taking as a teacher to accomplish that? So to blank, so that blank is kind of one of the statements that we are using. And this actually comes from one of our committee members is an AVID teacher, and this is a common framework that they use in AVID. So we're just trying to kind of build on the strengths of every committee member. Then we're going to go through a department breakout session. And this was the committee group that I was leading. So with that, this is the big part that each committee member of the PLC coach team, they are going to facilitate one department breakout session. So that session is going to last about an hour and a half. And I'm going to show you some of the scripting that we developed in response to this breakout session. So we have here a very clear outline plan. We wanted to make sure that each facilitator, because we are going to be breaking out as committee members and leading a separate department, we're using common verbiage, because the way that we frame this training and the way that we frame how we're going about creating a mission statement is very important. So we have what the facilitator says. So our goal is to share and develop what as a department we see as our driving purpose. But we talked about how we are going to take those why statements and break them down into 2 components. So when it comes to our purpose, we want to think about what is the outcome and what are the actions that we're taking to get there. And we're doing this because really we're brainstorming how we're going to develop our mission statement moving forward. We're going to use a method known as GOILs. So groups of increasingly larger size. So whenever you have a department, some of our departments are almost 30 teachers. we need to make sure that we're giving voice to every single one of them. So we'll start with they find a partner, they share their why statements. Then they're going to move into groups of 4 and break down those why statements. What in my why shows student outcome? What are the behaviors that I want to do as a teacher to get my students there? Then we will build up, we'll get into groups of 4 and start kind of comparing, contrasting what is similar about my outcomes and your outcomes, finding those commonalities. We'll get up to groups of 8. For some departments, we put in around 4. Again, those larger ones, we'll then do a group of 16 before coming all together. The idea of this is that at each group, you're finding the commonalities. What are similar between my list and your list? What is a shared purpose? Because if we're going to establish a planning, learning community, we need to start developing that community culture. Ultimately, at each department, they are going to identify their top 2 student outcomes and their top 2 teacher actions to then bring to the whole staff. So then when we reconvene as a whole staff, we're going to have a representative from each department, not the facilitator, not a committee member. We're going to put that on a volunteer within the department to give them more ownership. But they'll present our top 2 student outcomes, our top 2 teacher actions, to then hopefully have a more clear and concise list of these 2 key parts of a mission statement that then the leadership committee will meet and actually start developing that mission statement. What our ultimate goal is that by the end of August 5th, we will have as a staff roughly about 5 to 6 key ideas, and maybe a little bit more, depends on how many commonalities we have for both of these categories. So again, those categories are student outcomes. What do we want to be our impact? Teacher actions. What are we going to do to get there? Then on August 6th, we set aside time during our professional development day to meet as a PLC coach committee. In that coach committee, we are going to take what the whole staff created and narrow it down to kind of our top 2 to 3 key traits in each reasonable to have in a mission statement. So most likely the teacher action will maybe be 1 to 2. The outcomes will be max 4. Then we're going to bring it back to the whole staff on the 9th when we reconvene. At that point, we're going to do another fist to 5. Do we agree with what our collective outcome, our collective actions are? We're going to have a staff development meeting at the beginning of September. That way it gives us as the PLC coach and leadership committee time to take that input and actually write it out as a mission statement. We decided that it would be best to actually write the mission statement in a small group while still allowing for the input from the staff. That way we're doing kind of a bottom-up approach, giving ownership to our teachers. They gave that as a leadership committee, we can actually clearly identify what is our mission statement. We want to make sure that we get this tackled early in the year so that way it is well addressed and committed to, and we can start realigning. It is some campus-wide policies and make sure that we are all working towards a common purpose. So with this in mind, we did design a building level professional development activity that did address a problem and challenge that had on our campus. At this point, we have not implemented the policy or the professional development. However, we are very hopeful that this will have some meaningful impact on our campus for the rest of the year. Okay, thank you so much.